Hi and welcome to my 35-week pregnancy vlog. That's right. Actually, I had more than 35 weeks, and I have to apologize. I filmed this actually Friday night when I would have been exactly 35 weeks. And I was so tired. I had waited until everyone had gone to bed so the house would be quiet, and I was so tired that as I was filming it, I just kept on talking on, and I was talking really slow. And when I watched it, I thought, oh goodness, there's no way I can put that up. So I had to wait till today. It's Sunday afternoon. We're all home from church and everyone's napping or at least having some quiet time, and so I'm going to real quickly make this video. So anyways, yes, 35 weeks. I just cannot believe it. Time is flying by so fast, and I have so much that I'm still trying to do to get ready. But more on that later. I'm going to make a separate video kind of so you can follow us through the whole process of getting everything set up and ready for the baby. So I'll have a little series on that. But I did have an OB appointment on Thursday, and he went ahead and did my Group B strep test. And while he was doing that, he went ahead and checked me. So I'm already 60% effaced and 1 to 2 centimeters dilated. So I feel encouraged that all the Braxton Hicks contractions that I'm having, they are doing something, and my body is preparing and gearing up for labor. The baby's heart rate was 142. She is head down, he thinks. I know, like, that always can be, there's always a chance of error with that, but he's pretty sure that she's head down. I still do feel her moving a lot, and sometimes I will feel her in one hip or the other. She was at about a -1 station, so she's not like dropped, and actually with second and third babies, they don't normally drop until labor actually starts. So yeah. More on her position later, but anyway, as far as weight gain, according to them, I've gained 33 pounds. According to my calculations, that by 35 weeks, I've gained 31 pounds. And in some ways, I feel like mine is more accurate because I weigh myself every morning on the same scale at the same time, you know. So there's a routine and everything. It's not like, you know, the possibility that, oh, I just had a big meal and yada, yada, yada. So, my appetite has decreased as the baby's getting bigger and there's just not as much area for eating. And so the weight gain is slowing down just a bit here at the end. We went over, I talked with the doctor about some of our birth plans. I am going to be writing up and actually having our birth plan in writing and delivering that to him at the next appointment, which will be 37 weeks. So we'll be full term. But I talked to him about my desire this time to go unmedicated and not have the epidural. I was a little bit disappointed in his response. My VBAC support group feel like he was very disrespectful. But I understand, like, we have a relationship where he's always told me what he thinks, and I always tell him what I think. So I understand that he was just telling me what he thought about that, and that he felt like I did really well with the epidural last time, and that it helped me to be able to progress and have a successful VBAC. I told him that I felt like I could have done it without the epidural, that the labor was completely different from my first labor, and I told him I'm not taking it off the table. If an epidural would become a useful tool, I'm willing to consider it. But I don't want to just jump to having an epidural. I want to try first to go natural. So yeah, that was kind of a fun, awkward, I'm not the kind of person that really likes to challenge things. So it was a little bit of an awkward conversation for me to have because I was kind of challenging his plan of treatment and everything. He ended up by saying, you know, it'll all be okay. And that's kind of his standard. He's pretty chill, actually. So it's not like he stresses out about a whole lot of things, which makes him a good VBAC doctor, because even last time when I stalled at 6 centimeters for I don't know how many ever hours, it wasn't like he was rushing or talking C-section or anything like that. So I feel pretty comfortable that even though it was a little bit of a rocky conversation to begin with, that it ended well. As far as symptoms go, I have had some swelling over the last 2 weeks. And at one point it was getting to, like, one time the swelling went all the way up to my knee. And so I did call my friend who is a midwife, and we were just troubleshooting some things, tweaked some things in my diet, and started on some supplements, some additional supplements to what I was already doing. And actually it seemed like such an easy fix, and I have been feeling fantastic since then. It is to the point where it's hard to get comfortable for sleeping. I'm constantly having to change from one side to the other side because my hip will get sore, which makes for a kind of uneasy sleep. And then you add getting up to pee and maybe a child or two waking up on top of that, and I'm just not getting much sleep right now. I am having pretty consistent Braxton Hicks contractions, so my body is definitely in that gearing up for labor phase, which is exciting. You know, now that I'm to that point of you know, seeing that full term insight, I'm glad for everything that my body, all of the pre-labor stuff that my body is doing. And then was one thing that I have not really touched on. I mean, I've touched on it a little bit so far by saying that I really crave the sweets and the carbohydrates with this pregnancy, but I have had some really super weird cravings. Throughout this whole pregnancy, I have really, really loved orange juice. And why that is so weird is I actually hate orange juice. You are not going to catch me drinking a glass of orange juice if I'm not pregnant. I don't like orange juice. But it tastes amazing to me this pregnancy. And part of me has wondered if that's because the vitamin C does help to strengthen the amniotic sac, and the subchorionic hemorrhage that we were dealing with weakens the amniotic sac. So I don't know, did I just need a little extra vitamin C? It's one of the things that midwife did take out of my diet, though. She would prefer for me to be taking, you know, bioflavonoids because the orange juice does have a lot of sugar in it. I also, just the last few weeks, maybe the last month, I've been loving spicy food. Oh my goodness, like the Mexican, the salsa. We bought this bag of jalapeno chips. They are amazing. I love them. They burn your mouth so bad. You can only eat a few at a time. But I love them. They're terrific. And then the other really weird craving, just to give you some background on this too, it's strawberry jelly and peanut butter on a piece of bread. And why that is so weird is, well, I don't really ever eat like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's just not something. I'd be more of a meat and cheese sandwich type of person with vegetables and tomatoes and avocados. You know, I want more of the savory side of things. I mean, my family, none of us really even eat strawberry jelly. I made strawberry jelly, it was either 2 or 3 years ago, and I haven't made it since because it's sitting in the freezer and not getting eaten. And so I didn't see why make it if it's not getting eaten. Well, I'm eating it now, so I'm glad it's in the freezer. So, yeah, I think that pretty much, as far as I can think of, is it for the symptoms. I did want to touch on the baby's position. He does feel like the baby is head down, and he's not really worried about whether she's posterior or not, or any of those things, because most babies do work their way into a proper position by labor and delivery. I was actually on Spinning Babies and doing some reading, and Gail Tooley did say that up to 50% of babies are posterior going into labor, and then they turn and they are born correctly. Only about 5 to 10% of babies are actually born in a posterior position. So most babies do change. She did address the whole issue. I mean, I have had a malpresentation labor in my past, and my first malpresentation labor did end in a C-section. And it wasn't a C-section that we rushed to or anything like that. My water broke Christmas night, and we finally consented to the C-section on the 28th. So, yeah, we labored for quite a while. I pushed for 4 hours, and we had the midwife that I was using at the time had misdiagnosed the baby's position because Avia does not have a soft spot. She wasn't born with a soft spot on the top of her head. So she thought she was feeling the back of the head instead of the front of the head. And by the time the doctor was called in and everything, not only was she posterior, but she was also acyclitic. So her ear was presenting. And I had been pushing for 4 hours. So basically, if we had understood more, there was a possibility that he could have turned her, but she was so stuck at that point, he tried to turn her so that at least the head would straighten out. She would have still been posterior, but it wouldn't have been the ear presentation. But he couldn't get her to budge. So at that point, we did consent to the C-section just because my body was no longer handling things well. It was getting to a point of not being safe to continue. Just because that is in my history, I do feel like I do think about it a little more maybe than I should. Gail Tooley did say with moms that have had a history like mine that she does really work with them as far as their diet goes and the baby's size, because like for me, come to find out, I did have a pelvic injury in my 20s, and that contributes to having a harder labor with a posterior baby. Not only was I a first-time mom, but then I had the pelvic injury, and then she didn't have a soft spot. It was like everything was stacked on top of it. You know, it was all those little things that added into the whole of the equation to make it an issue. So like I was very careful with Samuel with what I ate. She said you have to have a very clean diet, mostly proteins and vegetables. You have to even be careful with the fruits, just to make sure that you don't end up with a baby that the size balloons out of control, because a malpresentation labor with a higher weight baby does create more difficulties. And especially since with my pelvic issues, you know, that's going to play into, it's not that a higher weight baby's bad, it's all of those factors together. Avi was 8'13", Samuel was 8'1". Samuel did have a soft spot, and he did have a smaller head, and he did rotate to the proper position for birth. So all of those things really helped with, my VBAC. And I'm just praying and trying to trust God that those things can happen with this baby. I do feel like I haven't done as good of a job at having a clean diet this time. So I have gained more weight, and I'm pretty sure she's going to be heavier than Samuel was. I'm just hoping and praying that because I have had that vaginal birth, I am considered the second-time mom, even though it's my third birth. It's my second vaginal birth. And since Samuel did pave the way and he was such an easy birth and everything, it will help with whatever position this baby is in. And also, we do have an OB, and we are aware of the position issues. I'm more aware of position issues as a mom too. Things that I had felt like that's what my midwife was supposed to be there for. I learned I need to be the one that's educated and understanding what's going on. So I do feel like even if we do end up with a malpresentation, we still have a really good chance of having a successful VBAC. I am continuing to see the chiropractor since 2 adjustments ago. With that adjustment, I did finally start to feel hiccups down low, hitting my cervix. And with the last adjustment too, she'll move back out after the adjustments, but they definitely do seem to be helping. So I am continuing to see the chiropractor. The chiropractor was really encouraged that we saw response so quickly. And so she's actually, since we are getting closer to birth, I'm seeing her every week right now. I'm doing the exercises from Spinning Babies. I try to work on keeping my pelvic area loose and limber. You know, even though I do have that injury, I can work with it. Even it's stiff if I don't work with it, but if I work with it, it can be loose, if that makes sense. And then I have been doing a lot of hands and knees. So even a fun little thing that I've been doing is like when I'm in that hands and knees position, I'll put on a YouTube video or something, and my goal will be just to stay kind of the hands and, it's not even hands and knees, it's like hands and elbows, or knees and elbows, because I kind of lean forward on my chest and my elbows to kind of also give a tilt as well. Yeah, so just working on keeping my body in balance and trusting that she's going to rotate. She still is in a posterior position a lot, but like I said, a lot of babies are at this point. So I'm just glad that too that she is hands down. As far as other things that I'm doing in preparation for birth, I am taking the Gentle Birth formula. I was up into the 35th week doing red raspberry leaf tea, and I would drink between 1 to 3 cups a day. Some days I only got in 1 cup, and some days I would get in more. So on average, it probably ended up being about 2. And then at 35 weeks, I switched over to doing the Gentle Birth formula. And for the first week, I'm taking a 1/4 teaspoon twice a day. And then after that, I'll go up to 3 times a day. And yeah, and then I'm doing evening primrose oil. I know some people do evening primrose oil internally, and there's been a lot of controversy about evening primrose oil over the last, I don't know, however long. You know, when Samuel was born, it was the thing, and so I did it. But I guess since there's been some studies that have questioned whether it's actually helpful or even good, and actually questioned whether it's very good for a VBAC person to ever take it orally, because it does soften scar tissue, and so when you have that uterine scar, you don't want that being weakened. So I am not taking it orally. I am inserting it vaginally though, TMI, sorry, because I do with my C-section, because of obvious head size and everything, and the doctor never fully explained why, but my cervix tore very badly, and it ended up being a surgical repair. And with Samuel, one of the reasons why I ended up with the epidural was because I was dilating on either side of this scar. There was like a stricture, and the OB could put his fingers in either side, like one hole here and one hole here, and there was the scar in between. And so he actually had to, my contractions weren't breaking up the scar tissue, so he had to manually pull that scar together, and he did not want to do that while I had feeling. So we had opted for the epidural. He decided not to surgically repair that. He left it to heal naturally, and his hope and my hope as well, praying that because it has been broken up once, it's going to break up easier this time, hoping that even my contractions will break it up and that I'll be able to dilate normally, naturally. If it does need to be broken up, we're hoping that it's not going to be as major of a deal and that I won't even need any pain medication for it at all. If it is still a pretty major thick scar band, I'm going to ask for just some local anesthesia for them to break through that. So yeah, oh, and the other great thing is I was praying. We didn't have money to hire a doula, and because I really want to go natural, I really feel like it's not that I need someone there to support me so much, as someone to be a liaison between me and the hospital. Because like I did feel a lot of pressure last time, from not everyone. My nurse was great, but from some of the other staff people at the hospital, there was pressure for me to like get the full epidural. And I really want, since I'm wanting to avoid that this time, I just need someone who is there to support me in my decisions. And so I was really praying about it. My husband, bless his heart, he's wonderful, but that's just not really his thing. And so I knew that would be hard for him. Excuse me. And yeah, we actually had a friend, she's a mother of 9. She's had 4 home births, 3 hospital births, and 2 birthing center births. She has 6 grandkids. One of her daughters actually ended up with a C-section, so she has such a wide range of experience, and just very knowledgeable. She offered to go with me. She was like, you're alone, you don't need to be alone, you need someone there to support you that can just be there for you. And yeah, she said, I'll go with you. And I was just so blessed and just so thankful that she was willing to do that. And then even my friend who is a midwife, when I was talking to her recently, she also was like, you know, if you need me there, I would be willing to act as a doula, even though she does not normally work in a hospital setting. So yeah, I was just really encouraged with that. Other than that, I'm nesting, I'm getting things ready, I'm getting things cleaned, and I'm going to do some videos on that just to show some of the different things I'm doing to prepare for the baby, some sewing projects that I've been doing, and also some freezer meals that I've been preparing as well. So anyways, that's pretty much it for my 35th week pregnancy update. Hey, I hope you all are doing wonderful, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.